All right, it's 7 o'clock, and it's Tuesday, May 27th. I am JP today, and I'm going to bring our facilities committee to order.
I'm Liz.
Okay.
Isn't the resemblance amazing?
Yeah, I wouldn't know the difference. Okay, so first I would look for an acceptance of the April 28th meeting minutes.
Motion. Liz, too?
Liz? Or
Can I?
Yeah, I don't know why not, you were here. Okay.
You can tell us.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing that, all in
Aye.
favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to old business.
Yeah, so the fourth and fifth grade, the admin roof HVAC issue is done. We fit, I know we were thinking about doing that over summer, we fit that into the flex day on the 20th. So that's done, we're good there. The Marlboro Pavilion, as you know, that's on hold right now. They're looking into maybe, pouring the pad over summer. We'd have to work with the township still on that. So I'm kind of in a holding pattern as far as that goes. So no real update there. And then review of all the summer facilities projects. Obviously the big one's the asbestos project. We have a plan to clean the buildings out systematically. They moved some of the testing and whatnot for the first set of rooms on the schedule because they are mobilizing on the 6th. So they may be getting in there, that whole week's 3-hour dismissals. They may be getting in there ahead of time, but we're going to use those 4 days to, remove furniture, stuff like that.
Do we have enough people?
Yeah, we're actually using the moving company to move a lot of the boxes, some of the bigger items. It worked out that it was the same cost as renting the C boxes for this whole summer. So everything's going to stay in the building. We do have to have a specialist come in and move some of the chemicals, because none of us are trained, or if something were to happen, we need them there for that. So we have a plan in place. Like I said, we're going to start with the rooms that are going to be the first ones, which are rooms 201 through 204 and rooms 101 through 103. And then they have a really well thought out plan here as far as, they're going to do the abatement. If all the tests come back the next day, good. They're going to have the general contractor right behind them doing the install. So all the meetings have gone well. I think the walkthrough we just did went well, so I feel pretty confident. Obviously now it's just a matter of that casework coming in on time. So that's going to be a item of anxiety until the end of summer, but I'll update you guys as we go on.
Did they give you any idea how long?
If they stick to their lead times, we'll be okay. But there's no room for delay. So any delay would change that. But if they stick to the lead times they're telling us, we will have the casework in by the start of school. They're working 4 10-hour days, so that allows Fridays and the weekends. If we start falling behind, we can have that discussion.
Okay.
And Mike, when they're doing the work, no one can be in that building.
Well, no, they just can't be. We won't have anyone in that building. We're moving custodial staff, we're moving administration. The only areas that somebody can't be in is where they're actually removing asbestos. So we have access to the building if we need to. Obviously for safety reasons, we just, moved everything. And they're gonna be moving around, They're gonna be doing, a block of 4 rooms one week, a block of 4 rooms the next. So it's, the entire hallway for the gym, that's going to be all closed off. They do their containment. So, as that progresses, different areas of the building will be off limits. So like our maintenance team can still go into the mechanical rooms if there's an issue, but we just need to make sure we're coordinating all of that.
Okay.
I remember what it looked like when we had the N word.
Yeah.
And when we had the F word. And yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
But it wasn't asbestos, so
Yeah.
we'll be done with that.
I-R-E.
Yeah,
Oh.
I-R-E,
Oh,
yeah,
wait.
F-I-R-E.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
We
the
don't
other
say
4
certain
letter
words so we don't incur gremlins or anything like that.
knocking on
Yeah, we're not gonna.
The other bigger projects are the roof. We're all set with all of that. So they will be starting on the second week of June for the 4-5 center. That's a full rip and replace of
I
that
thought it
one
was
section.
the 4/5 center.
Oh,
It's the forfeit.
it came up.
It's not a whole
It
center.
will be when it's done.
It's not a whole center.
I think that's-
4/5. It's not the one half, it's even 4/5.
Liz, you're a hoots fan.
Yeah, my life.
And then the high school in Marlboro, those are smaller parts of the project. That is mid-July, they'll be here for a week for each of those. So the Marlboro one is very, it's not very extensive. And the high school, I've talked to them, we'll just work them around the asbestos project. That shouldn't be an issue at all.
Okay.
So I've had those conversations. And then access door control and door hardware, that's mostly high school and middle school for the door hardware, and then access control throughout the district to add some of those in. We're starting to get parts in already for them, we're storing them back in the rink, and we're all set as far as installation, and that should all happen by the end of summer.
Good.
So again, the high school may be one that might go into August or into September, just because of access, but we'll monitor that.
Okay.
And then there was another one that Jim was kind of taking lead on. Do you want to go over that?
Sure,
Or?
that'd be great if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So you may recall back in February, it seems like forever ago, we came and discussed a project called door management, door alarm system to be installed. It was the receipt of a PCCD grant for $449,000 from the state, so it's all granted money. Dr. Friedner wrote up the grant and it got justified based on the concept to the ire of many other school districts who didn't get money. So long story short, we then stated that we were going to go and in March start the process with an architect and bid package and all that because it's state funds. We did that and a couple things happened. The most significant thing that happened was when the architect applied for what's called prevailing wage. You have to use prevailing wage for all grant money. He received back a very large wage number for Montgomery County, disparate of that of Berks County and some other projects he was looking at. So we went with it, and really what it did is get the project out of control. Because of the restraints you put around a bid like that, and vendor, really I had one vendor response, but it was extreme, would have consumed most of the money just for the install. The good news, we stayed diligent, he stayed diligent, Mike's encouragement, something's got to be off here. We went back and resubmitted, and we have a June 1 number that instead of $115 an hour is now more like $76 an hour, more in line with what was expected. We even got a little bit of, well, that's odd, how'd you get a number that high? And let us look into that. So the good news is that happened. On the other side of things, we've been working we originally were thinking we had to go PEPM. PEPM and CoStars are, they're state buying contracts. Because of this money, we thought we were going to have to buy these things through PEPM, the materials. This is much like a door access system, but the difference is there's going to be one of these guys at every door, right? So this is for prop doors. This is protection during the day, where your burglar alarm is protection at night. So the interesting part is this technology is made by one manufacturer, and the knowledge that they have and the ability to build up, and you'll get this, Melanie, the offering to prefabricate all the control panels that we need, instead of us going out and trying to find on PEPM 5 or 10 parts that go into that panel. They've been, we've been able to justify them as a sole source provider.
Nice.
And they went through a couple iterations understanding our budget constraints and have given us school discounts, and they really want to help us succeed, even to the point of helping us with some of the hardware if need be, give that, right? So with all that said, where do we stand? We stand where we would like to get moving with that. It's grant money. We'd like to get that order started with Larson, and Sennis, the sole source provider, they need to plan out their prefab and their timing for the summer and delivery. And then we're waiting for another thing that came of terms. We realized that the vendor at this point, who was the only bidder, was also co-stars, or at least in the process of co-stars, or had been co-stars. So they are working that out, and we got confirmation from grant writers that co-stars is a valid
Good.
direction to go.
Excellent.
That takes a lot of overhead and things off of the vendor, the installing vendor, that he's telling us he can like not set as high. I think you'd understand this as well, you folks that do this all the time. You know, he took 115 and escalated it probably to 150 to cover himself.
Right.
He's talking now more like 76 escalated to 90.
Yeah, big
Right?
difference.
Big difference. So we're calculating the number of doors. We intended to do that from the very beginning, but we just would like your support to kind of continue to move forward in that co-stars direction. That would mean, if I use the right terminology, we would reject the bid.
Yeah,
right?
we have to reject the bid.
And if you have anything to add here, we would reject that bid once we know they're co-stars, and we would contract them the way we always do, with the local guy.
Yep, local guy, that's awesome.
And we work with them all the time.
Yeah.
And we might even start, this is the big one, we might even start with them before we hit, kind of the board meeting. So I
Right.
don't know how you feel about that. Could we have that support? Is that a pro or a con? Alan, how does everybody feel about that?
I'm good with it.
You know,
I'm personally good with it.
If we had your recommendation.
Local contractor.
And the main thing is it's it is government funds that have a time restriction on here as well, so that's where we're really trying
And
to
it's
get going.
completely paid for by this grant money.
It is as far as we can go. If we get to the end, now, what I'm
So,
saying
yeah,
is,
so are you
what
gonna-
we will spend is completely paid. We may not get an overhead door or a bunch of doors. We're hoping to do every single access point to every building.
Mhm.
We actually knew when we went in on the grant, that might mean 84 doors instead of 114.
Mhm.
Now, we're thinking we might be kind of somewhere in between there with the gifts from the two vendors and, whatever.
So
the
this
gifts
is
are.
budget neutral.
It's an
It
actual.
should be budget
it's
neutral.
an
Yeah,
actual-
Jim, please
it's-
don't come back to us, this is nothing against you, but please don't come back to us in a month and say, I need 200 grand.
So that could happen if we say, we got as far, maybe we get to 95 doors, and we have that imperative side. So we're really, right now, spending.
We're spending the grant. We're not
We're
intending to
spending
go
the
over.
grant. We're
We
putting
could come
the
back and say,
infrastructure in,
the
but
grant
we're-
got us to 95 out of 110 doors, so if
We
we
knew
want to
that
finish,
originally, yeah.
here's what the cost would be versus that. But it's 95 more doors that have this apparatus.
We knew this would be do as many doors as we could in the beginning.
Right.
Right, and that we would look for other
It's
grants.
not do it
and-
until we have to pay for it.
We'd look for other
Yeah.
grants and other ways to justify. So it'll be a priority thing of us sitting down with administrators and talking, do we do the front doors, the back doors? Well, the reality is, the front doors kind of monitored, it's the back door that people sneak in on, right? This
Yeah.
is that door that, those offenders are coming in and, causing bad.
And this ties into our current security system.
So this is what's really cool about it. So we got onto this technology through our partners with iPro, who used to be Panasonic cameras, and the big project that you guys supported last year and the year before for uplifting our cameras, putting in some AI and all that. So iPro integrates with this, and that's another specialty of these guys. They'll help us with our integration. If we buy if they buy some of the subcomponents and put them in these panels for us, then iPro gives us the licensing for the software to monitor this
Nice.
as well. So it'll be a centralized monitoring thing, so.
Great.
I don't know
Jim, just so I understand, the access is by swipe card or?
No, so this is truly a door alarm system. So imagine prop doors and all those doors. This is
Okay.
gonna screen to the high
I'm in a
heavens.
different-
Yep.
So
And there's a different grant that you're thinking about, Peg, where we're increasing the number of swipe access
That's my-
to and from the hallway into
Okay.
main offices at buildings and that type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
So
it's
this is
increasing.
putting a watcher on as many doors as we possibly can. I might come back to you and say, wow, like, we really should do the rest of this, let's find a way. But we're gonna do as much as we can with this money, and we got value from.
What Jim is asking for is the committee's approval to go forward with purchasing soon, this week, if not.
Before June.
We'll put it on the June 19th meeting.
We will.
We'll put it on the June 19th meeting, but we want to get it started because that 3-week break is going to help delay with the one manufacturer, so.
So if somebody goes out a door, they shouldn't, and this alarm's gonna go off.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh,
There's a lot, you're gonna hear a lot of noise in the gymnasium areas.
Here we are, and it's gonna start, and we know it's gonna put pressure on folks. It reports to a console, it can send messages to folks when the security guard gets over there and checks that door. Some people will have a fob that they can open that door for 15 minutes and then it resets, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes behind this. We know there's gonna be a lot of kind of change management and acceptance going on, but it's meant to protect the kids.
And not to go down a rabbit hole or get too detailed about this, but if you're arming the outer gym doors at the high school, will you be?
Yeah, that's the intent.
Well,
yeah.
you guys know those doors are shot. You know that.
Yeah, but that wouldn't impair this project.
Right,
We
but
might.
Because there would be a contact there that's something we can look at as far as adding it to the capital project.
okay.
But I don't see it as an issue with
We
this.
thought at the time, if they were replaced, they'd be ordered in with the sensors and just be wired in. We didn't,
'Cause the
Mike
setup-
wasn't here then, but we did talk about that.
The set of outer doors to the high school gym, closest to the boys' locker room, that one door doesn't catch. You gotta physically go up and stick your finger in there, you know.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, we would have to, I mean, it has to catch. You know what I mean? There's no other way around it. So we can look at that.
Well, that's kind of good, or somebody will have to catch it, otherwise it'll,
I'm not gonna edit what I say. I'm just
No,
telling
no,
you.
no.
it's the security part of it.
I'm just
That's
saying,
all.
we don't-
Understood.
we don't want anybody
Understand that.
to know where we are, that's
You
all.
just need to
No,
know.
no, we're cool.
That's security.
So we can take care of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it's designed for, that's the concept, I think you recall it, hopefully from when we talked about it, it's moving on, and this company is fabulous in their ability to help us from the standpoint, I mean, they're doing hundreds and hundreds of doors, and stopping theft and all that, but they seem to also understand, like crisis goes, they understand schools, and schools, and that kind of thing, so.
All right,
feel confident.
interesting.
So are we good with moving that forward, if they can start?
Yes, I'll make the
Before we
recommendation
make
to
the-
move it forward so that
Thank
we
you.
put it on the
With-
next agenda.
I just don't want it to cost us more money.
Well, the proposal that, when we reject the bid, the proposal that Jim has coming is a time and material. So that's why he's able to say, we'll only get as far as the money
Right, it takes
goes.
us, yeah.
Gotcha,
Where, in the bid, this is what we're doing.
gotcha.
So it's a little different
So
strategy.
there'll be a motion on the June 19th board meeting, but we have a general consensus from the committee that we can move forward for timing's sake.
You might want to read that agenda item separately.
Okay.
And just make sure the rest of the board is
Cool.
clear on
We're
what's
gonna put
happening.
some information into board updates.
Board
too.
update?
Is that-
Oh,
If-
Yeah, well, this could probably go in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be
So
great.
whatever you give me, I'll put it in.
Okay.
And I'll get you electronic.
So you're okay with that? Okay, thank you. All right,
It's good?
yes,
All right.
we are all in
I
agreement.
head down the pipe.
You can?
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
And then-
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
you'll be no stranger.
Okay.
So I guess next thing is the standing items.
Thanks, Jim.
Security, we're fully staffed. Everything's going fine with that. Get to the end of the school year. Rodney has pretty much everything planned through summer into the new school year as far as trainings, and he sent me a whole list. So he's done a great job, getting prepared already for next school year.
Great.
June 19th, there'll be an exec session, as we do each year annually for the Act 44 school safety, so that's already on the agenda.
And Alan, I don't hear anything, but I'm assuming the angst from all of that, bringing in guards, has really subsided to a large
In
degree.
the second year, I believe it has. And there were times with Cavalcante, or whoever I want to say, that it was reassuring that there were people on property, and it's kind of the norm at this point.
That's good.
The next is the feasibility study. I don't really have much to talk about with that. Drew and I did sit down with KCBA who did that study. I asked them for a workable basically a spreadsheet showing all the items that they had on there that I could manipulate. So I have that now. I'm also in discussions with mechanical vendors that, obviously they want to sell you something at the end of the day, but they'll come in and do free assessments of all of your equipment and stuff like that to start working towards, a capital improvement plan, which is something we don't really have right now. But I'm hoping, through summer and into fall, if you give me some time, we can, start working on that.
Sad you didn't have anything better.
Yeah, there you go. But I think, I think we have a lot of the tools we need to do that. And like I said, some of these other companies that I have the familiarity with, they do that all the time, Now they're gonna tell you everything's bad and they,
That's true.
replace it all, but at least they, they'll give you the data, and just going through and seeing how old some of this stuff is, how new some of it is, and really making a plan for that. And then on new business, I have vendor invoices received for past service not invoiced. So Dorn does some HVAC work for, a lot of mechanical work for us, really. We got a letter in the mail about a month or two ago saying, there's these outstanding invoices. We went through them. They were from 2022 all the way to now. And it was in the total amount of $50,000. So I went back and I tried to talk to them and say, hey, can you help us out? We're a school. I got basically out of nowhere unless we wanted to go on a payment plan. So Drew talked to the solicitor and just said, hey, what do we do about this? At the end of the day, we've gone through them, they are actual invoices. They just never sent them to us, and we have to pay them.
So it's not like we ignore them. They were never sent
Yes.
to us.
Okay.
Drew, and you can use your charm and talk us
Yeah,
out
what
of
the
it.
heck?
Actually, Mike did call them, talked with them.
I talked to the owner of the company and
Yeah.
really
They
got
were.
nowhere, which is probably to be expected, but I was hoping to at least get, something.
I went and yelled at the store.
I don't have Drew's charm.
I went and yelled at the store
Drew,
authority
they
when
like help
I
him out.
don't
they
know.
didn't charge us for our tapping fees, so.
Yeah. So, some of that's facilities, some is actually food service for work they did on some of their equipment. But you'll see that large number on the next bills list, so.
Okay. That in our budget?
How
I mean,
how
is
did they
that-
not
how did
bill us
that-
for 3 damn years?
I don't know.
It is surprising how much that happens.
Yeah.
Like MRO, like, we're still clearing up stuff from like 2022. I don't know how people live with like 10, 20K just chilling.
Just sitting there, not
But
hanging out?
it is surprisingly common.
Yeah.
There should be a statute of limitations.
Yeah.
You don't bill us for 2 years, we don't have to pay you.
Well, obviously, they were doing okay for themselves.
Yeah, didn't have a problem with that.
The next thing is the wastewater project change order. I know that was already approved on the last board meeting, but since that was kind of such a quick, we put that on the day before, I just wanted to go over it. And that was for the manifold for air. And basically, it was only designed to replace a section of it that was actively rusting. And you guys approved, thank you very much for that, to replace the entire section. And that was just so that 5 years from now, we're not going back and doing more work. We're getting it done now and hopefully not worrying about it. The Hereford Elementary aerator replacement. So for the wastewater plant there's 2 aerators. One just completely died. So they are 31 years old. So, it's not, that's to be expected, right? The piece of equipment is $10,000, and we're looking at about $10,000 in man hours for that. So about $20,000. I'm not quoting that out. We have a good company because it's emergency work, and that helps regulate our pH levels, which we're good right now, but obviously we're monitoring that every day.
Sure.
And I would have ordered it already, but the holdup is anytime you do anything there, the state has to get involved. So Andrew on the maintenance staff is doing a good job dealing with that and contacting the state, and as soon as they give me the go-ahead, we're going to have to do it. So I just wanted to give you the update on that.
Mike, you said 2 aerators?
We have 2 aerators.
But-
One's working one died.
So we don't have to replace both?
We don't have to, and I asked the question, I said, does it make sense to replace both now? He said, no, get the new one in and work the other one until it no longer works.
Yep.
And then, then replace that one. So we're probably looking, in the next 2-3 years, we probably will be replacing the other one. But for right now, it doesn't make sense.
We'll fire up the car washes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There'd be no savings if we did them both at the same time,
No.
because you're still gonna pay for
So
the
it's
same
okay
time
for
and
the
materials.
area stuff at
Yep.
the time you put it in.
And so, yeah, that's why I asked the question, because even if it was a few, couple $1,000s, it makes sense to just do it all at once, but,
Twofer.
Yeah.
Wow. Wonder if the new one will last 31 years.
I
Probably
don't know.
I don't think-
My guess would be no, but,
Find out.
Yeah.
They don't make them like they used to.
yeah.
Nope. Darn aerators.
And then I put on here the preventive maintenance service agreement updates. So I've been going through and kind of getting all of our service agreements in one place. So we know when they start, when they end, when to renew them, when to start talking about it, and how much a year they cost. I've actually had a lot of success with the ones coming up. I think in the finance committee, I said, you're usually seeing about a 5% increase every year now in facilities related things, where a couple of years ago it was 3. All of the ones that we're signing are either 0 to 1% increases. So, I think that it helps that I'm new and these companies don't have, they're like,
They're
well,
afraid you're
Yeah.
gonna replace them with your people.
yeah, or go to somebody else, bring somebody else in. So we are having success saving some money there.
So you do have charm.
Yeah.
I just tell them I'm gonna go out for RFP if they don't.
Yeah.
Just full compliments tonight.
But I will say, right now, and I think it'll be a little bit higher than this, but under repairs and maintenance, that was one of the items that I suggested we increase on budget. $212,000 of that budget line item is just in vendor contracts.
Yeah.
And then the rest is what you have for repairs. So, I just wanted to throw that out there, so that when you look at that, you say, you see that. And it's all things we need. Now, the large ticket items, I am waiting for some proposals back, because I'm just checking people's numbers, to see, if they're in line or not. So we are checking, but yeah, it's $212,000 of that line item is just in vendor contracts.
We have a lot of things to have preventative maintenance on.
Well, you guys did a good job of adding some of those mechanical ones in
Yeah.
when you had that big GISA project, because you want to protect your investment.
Sure.
So, and I'll keep looking at, if there's ways to, creatively, bring those numbers down or move, do some things in-house. We'll continue to look at that.
Okay.
And then the last thing I had here was the roof leak at the high school. So we had a pretty substantial roof leak over the wood shop. And it's not one of the roofs that is scheduled to be replaced. So we had it repaired. It was substantial. It was like $7,500 for the repair. But the water did get into into the wood shop, and it got onto one of the engravers and completely filled it. It was, Jim went over, I asked Jim to go over, he went over to check it out, and the thing was just completely filled with water. There's some tile damage, not crazy, but it's noticeable, and the cabinet that the engraver sits on was damaged as well. So we did have the insurance company come out, they looked at it, we're just waiting on what they think their number is that they're gonna, if we're gonna go with the claim, give us back for it. But the engraver itself, do you remember how much that was? 8,000?
I think the two different quotes were they between, one was it 6,000, one was 7,000, something
Yeah.
for replacement?
Yeah, so right there alone, you're above your $5,000. So once you add in all the cabinets and stuff, so
Always
we'll,
get something back.
yeah, and we have to get them the engraver, so.
Mike,
'cause
do
it's
you know
completely-
how old that part of the roof is? That's just-
I can tell you.